Right.
The saddler told me to get up. It was about the eighth count of 8, but when I jumped up, they said the fight was over.
It was interesting reading about that because the referee, Zach Clayton, 6, 7, 8, he's counting, 6, 7, 8, then what?
I jump up and the fight is over. I've lost a heavyweight title match, and I never did hit 9-10.
How strange is that?
It was kind of strange, but today when I look at that quick count, I think about if I had gotten up. I told Jim Brown, if I'd gotten up, he would have come to me and I could have knocked him out. And Jim Brown said he wasn't going to come to you. He would have done the same thing, which meant, and then sometimes I didn't realize the blessing of that boxing match until years later I started looking at the replay. The greatest punch thrown in that fight was never thrown. Because as I was going down, Muhammad had a clean shot at me to finish me off, and he didn't do it. He saw that I was going down. Generally, that's when you get a guy. He never hit me. That would have been the best shot. I was saved. It was a merciful thing he did for me. I'm glad I didn't make that 10 count. I wouldn't be here speaking with you today.
The reason I asked the question about Zach Clayton was because I read something about how, your group gave him like $25,000 before the fight and things like that were customary.
True.
So it's like if he got that from you, who's to say he didn't get more from Ali's group
I had this conversation with some of Muhammad Ali's gang, and Herbert Muhammad was in the room. And so one of his friends said, I read in Sports Illustrated where you said that you gave Zach Clayton $25,000 not to disqualify you. I said, that's true. He said, come here, Herbert. He said, George said he gave him 25. How much did you give him? 35, didn't it? So Zach Clayton got rich. He didn't disqualify me, but evidently something else he did for Muhammad. Who knows what that was?
Right. I mean, do you think cheating was involved?
Oh, I don't think any cheating. Look, it was a right hand that knocked me down. A good right hand, left-right hand combination. No one cheated that in. Muhammad did that with that. I felt the shot. I felt the power. I was on the canvas, so there's no cheating in that. Let's face that. Get that clear. He knocked me out.
Oh, right. No, I meant on the end of like Zach Clayton.
Oh yeah, but Zach Clayton, everybody got rich. Sometimes the people who have the autographs, if they sell them, there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody make $1, no big deal.
And then after the fight, Ali's bragging about how his strategy worked, he wore you down. What are you thinking when you're hearing that?
I left out of Africa first with so much hate in my heart, and I wanted to get him more than anything. I wanted revenge. I wanted to pay this man back for what had happened to me in Africa. He had beaten me and then boasted about it too. My whole life was dedicated to revenge. That's all I thought about, nothing else, revenge.
If you won that fight, how would historians compare you as a boxer to Ali?
Well, when you look back, it was just a boxing match. That's all. I'd had almost 40 boxing matches. I'd won a lot of them, but I had forgotten about losing. I hadn't lost since I was an amateur. I don't think that historians, as far as boxing is concerned, I was a boxer, and Joe Louis is remembered as a great boxer. It's only Muhammad Ali who's going to be remembered as a great man who boxed.
Sure, but I mean, at the same time, just on actual boxing ability, obviously you're in the ring against Muhammad.
I'll be remembered as a good boxer, but let's hope as the years go by, there'll be many more after George Foreman. There'll be some with the big punch, bigger punch, some with a better jab, lesser jab, but there'll always be good boxers. And I hope there's a trading card sooner or later that'll feature George Foreman as one of the all-time greats, but that's about it.
I mean, do you think if you had won that, you would have been close to the same level?
If I had beaten Muhammad Ali, I still never would have been considered on the same level as far as this guy, because he had something that everybody should try to get in sports. He had personality.
That's something you have, though.
Well, I mean, my days of boxing is over. I can concentrate on personality, but he had it in boxing. What a wonderful show he was.
What effect did the outcome of that fight have on you?
I was devastated. When I lost that boxing match, I thought I'd lost my manhood. It wasn't like I got up the next morning and lost the title. I'd get up in the morning like I'd been stripped as a man. I'd been in a room with one of my girlfriends, and I felt like I was naked. I'm no longer a man. It took a long time for me to really kind of get myself together.
While suicide wasn't something that you would commit, how often was that something that you gave considerable thought to?
It wasn't like I was thinking about suicide, but I was surely thinking about homicide. I wanted to kill Muhammad Ali.
So you then win a variety of fights against a bunch of opponents, including Joe Frazier, which ended up actually being his last fight. You're then at the point where you can face Ali again for a title bout. How interested was Ali in facing you?
You know what? After that boxing match in Zaire, Muhammad never wanted to fight me. As a matter of fact, I called him. He called me once when we talked on the phone about doing the match. And he said, yeah, I'll do the match, but you got to hire Dick Sadler. I said, I'm not ever going to work with Dick Sadler again, ever. That's your problem. You don't want to work with anybody. That's why you'll never fight for the title, and hung up on me. We got that close to a boxing match, but it was about taking Dick Sadler back. I said, no, once with Dick is enough with Dick Sadler. And now all of a sudden the various boxing committees are saying, look, if you don't fight George Foreman, he's a top contender, the fight with Jimmy Young and George Foreman will become an elimination boxing match, and the winner of that fight can be champion. That's how close I was to making that fight happen with Muhammad Ali. He didn't want to fight me.
Now, when Ali called you and said he'll fight you if you work with Dick Sadler again, did he bring up Dick Sadler's name because he knew you didn't want to?
He brought up Dick Sadler's name as if to say he had a good reason not to fight me because I wouldn't use Dick Sadler again. As a matter of fact, he started working with Dick Sadler himself. I looked up and Dick Sadler was in his corner. So all of these things started to come alive to me then.
So you end up obviously fighting Jimmy Young, who's the top contender. The winner of that match is going to end up taking on Ali. The significance of that day wasn't the fight, which you ended up losing. It was a closely contested bout, but it was what happened afterwards.
That's right, because I wanted to go 12 rounds. Everybody was saying Foreman has got a good punch, but if Muhammad extend him 12 rounds, he can do it. So I fought this fight to go beyond 10 rounds. That's what I wanted to do. The fight was over. I lost the boxing match, went back to my ring, not that depressed because I'd achieved the feat I wanted. I'd gone 12 rounds. And I went back into the dressing room to cool off, and that's when life changed for me. I died, had a vision. In a split second, I was dead and alive again. In that dressing room, I was fighting for my life. Forget about Ali, forget about money, forget about fame. My life, I was losing it. And then next thing you know, I was dead. I looked over my head. Under me was nothing but nothing. Everything, but sorrow. I looked at it and I felt, this is death, this horrible smell that goes along with death. It was like it was surrounded with other people. But I got mad because I knew that was religion. I mean, you know, a God, but I just didn't believe in religion. I got mad and said, I don't care if this is death. I still believe there's a God. When I said that, a gigantic hand reached into nothing. I was dead, over with. I looked behind me, saw everything I'd ever worked for crumble like ashes. I didn't care about nothing but my life. The only thing that saddened me about that moment, I hadn't said goodbye to my mother. But when I said, I don't care if this is death, I still believe in God, a hand reached in, pulled me out of that, and I was alive in that dressing room. Evidently, they picked me up off the floor, put me on the table. And my doctor stood behind me, and I told him, move his hand, doc, because the thorns on his head are making him bleed. And I saw blood coming down my forehead, and nobody else did. Told my masseur, move your hand, he's bleeding where they crucified him. They started strapping me down then. But I fought 8 men to get into the shower and start screaming words like, hallelujah, I'm clean, I've been born again. And I tried to go out the door. They said, no, you don't have any clothes on, George. Well, they strapped me down and put me on a stretcher and rushed me to a hospital and put me in intensive care. And my life has never been the same since.